World of Warcraft, the Adventure Continues panel. Your panelists are Alex Afraziabi, Tom Chilton, Brian Holinka, Dave Kosak, and Chris Metzen.
Hello, 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 BlizzCon. Guys, I am so excited. I'm so excited to be here, just to meet the fans and the costumes. Guys, you outdo yourselves every year. I got to tell you, you guys make this the most fun gaming convention I've ever been at, hands down. Thank you so much. All right, so we are going to talk about Warlords of Draenor. So if you were at an earlier panel, we blew through, I think we blew through 200 PowerPoint slides in like 60 minutes or something. It was a little much. We kind of ran out of time. For this panel, we wanted to slow it down a little bit, take it easy. We're going to talk about just a few topics. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the heart of this expansion, our values, sort of the soul, and why, most importantly, why Draenor is absolutely the next place to take the Warcraft franchise. All right, so let's get my PowerPoint up here because I'm a big fan of PowerPoint. Okay, so recap. How did we get here? How did this all begin? We asked ourselves, what if? What if you take this guy, Garrosh Hellscream? Now we know about Garrosh. We know about his values. We know what's important to him. We know, yeah. We know the kind of horde that he wanted. What if someone gave him a golden ticket, maybe a certain bronze dragon that you might have met on the Timeless Isle, to go back and make the horde that he wanted? What if he stops the orcs from drinking the blood of Manroth, stops them from becoming the fell, green-skinned, possessed barbaric horde that we know from the past? Makes that one little change. What do we get? Oh, we're still getting a horde, all right. We're getting a little something like this. We call it the Iron Horde. There they are. We're going to talk a little more about these badasses a little bit later, but I can give you a quick nickel tour there. There's Kargath Bladefist there on the left. Black Hand is looming above him. If you've played the RTS games, these names are familiar. Now, before, maybe they were an inch-high unit on an RTS screen, but now we're going to get to meet them. We're going to get to smell their breath. We're going to get to really interact with these guys. Now, a couple things to note. So, Garrosh, he's not the main villain of this expansion. Just want to make that clear. He's going to set things in motion, and then they're going to spiral out of control, which is kind of awesome. The other thing to note is they are coming for us. He's not manipulating some other time. He's trying to open a portal to our present to take vengeance on the Alliance and Horde that deposed him. He's angry. He's got an axe to grind. These guys are coming for us. So we like this idea because it does a couple great things for the game for us, right? First of all, this kind of threat, these badasses coming through a portal to eat our faces and eat the faces of our unborn children, this is exactly the kind of threat that Warcraft is all about. This gets our franchise back home. This is what Warcraft is all about. It's about war and craft. We like that. The other thing we really like about this is it gets us here. It gets us to Draenor, and we're going to spend some time talking about Draenor and why this is such an amazing world. But first, what did I miss? What else do we want to talk about these guys before I move on? Boom! All right, I'm going to keep going. Draenor, what do we love about Draenor? So this is a place steeped in Warcraft lore. It's the home world of the orcs. And if you play Draenei, you know that the Draenei kind of adopted this as a home world. They lived here for a couple hundred years. This is an amazing place. It is just a place of mythic scale, mythic scope. It is a savage world. It's a primal world. It's untamed. As Chris said at the other panel, it's not like the Seven Kingdoms where there's all these kingdoms after kingdoms that have built over time. This is a primal world. This is a savage world. These are clans fighting for dominance. We call it a world of giants. This world will eat your face. And this is one of the main themes that comes across. And I'm going to apologize because we're going to use the word savage a lot. We're always talking about a savage world. This is a savage place. And that gives us that gives us a great theme to really dig into, gives us a great place to have these really heroic adventures. This is a savage world. How do you cope with a world like this? How do you cope with the world where, to escape slavery, these guys will cut off their own hand and attach a weapon to it? Like, these guys are hardcore. How do you cope with that? Do you become a savage yourself? Or do you kind of bond together with your family, your clan, or your faction as kind of a bulwark against this savage world? What's this world going to do to us? That's one of the questions that we get to ask and we get to explore with all the adventures that you're going to have here. What about the Draenei? The Draenei land on Draenor, and it's fair to say they're kind of living in a bubble. They were living separate from this savage world. This savagery is going to bust open their walls. It's going to come pouring into their cities. How are they going to react? What are they going to do? Are they going to become savages themselves? Are they going to come together? We get to explore Draenei in sort of their sort of crucial turning moment, and we haven't really been able to explore that yet, so that's pretty exciting. This is the Frostwolf clan. Frostwolf is Thrall's home clan. Horde's going to get to spend some time with the Frostwolf clan. When we find them, they're not really running on all cylinders. They're not really working together. They really need to kind of get some of their stuff sorted out so that they can come together and fight off this savagery themselves. Even the garrison, and we're going to talk more about garrisons at a panel tomorrow, even your garrison kind of hints on this theme. I mean, this is a dangerous place. You got to build these big stone walls to, keep the savagery out. This is your bastion, your safe haven on Draenor. And also, in that idea of that building that community, you're going to be bringing heroes from all over the world to your garrison, and you're going to sort of be forming your own sort of dream team here. So, this theme comes across in all the content, in everything we do in Draenor. Am I missing anything else here?
That was savage.
Savage.
Way savage.
We might want to pause here and actually talk a little bit about how we got to this savage world and how we decided upon Draenor. Maybe that's a good conversation
It was
to have,
a savage process.
It was
of
brutal.
ideation.
It was brutal, actually, yeah. Not Fred Savage. It's taken a little too far, but close. Yeah, so interestingly enough, when we talk about this expansion, warlords are at the highest point of equity for us, I think. But the second point is, as it always has been, the world. And we went through a whole lot of iteration as to what this world could be. I think we
wanted to get those warlords, and we were like, well, what does he do? Does he raise them from the dead? Does he bring them back? Where do we put them? Where do we put this expansion?
And we actually did that. We initially Garrosh is going to go to the Outland itself. He's going to be exiled or something like that. He's going to use some kind of ancient horn and resurrect the fallen warlords and then invade Azeroth. And as we started to look at what that would look like from a world design perspective, I think we all were a little over Outland as it exists now. But then we thought about, wow, there's something here though. There's a world here with a story to tell. And so how do we get that world? How do we get that version of Outland to our players who have never seen it and get our warlords? And I think this is how we started going down this path of what we have now, which is the Warlords of Draenor and Draenor 30 years ago.
And Tom in particular really wanted us to get into the theme of time travel and use it a lot.
He did.
Because it's very popular.
Or not.
And easy
We
to
use
do.
time cop rules, by the way.
Yeah, it's important to note this is an expansion about Draenor, so it's not really the time travel expansion. You don't have to worry about Thrall's parents not meeting and now he's got to play guitar at the school dance. That's not the expansion we're building. We want to get you to Draenor. We want to get you to this really epic, mythic, heroic place to have savage adventures with savages savaging the landscape. Is that good?
Savage
Nailed it.
Actually, like on that point, like just to get out ahead of it, like with the time thing. I mean, we've got a number of stories kind of set in the past, War of the Ancients and things like that. And there have been issues over time where there's little potholes or little breaks in the line. As that factored into this expansion set and really chasing this story, we certainly thought a lot about that. The time travel stuff's it could be pretty rough, just as writers and making, editorially making sure everything lines up and everything's hip. Sometimes, things don't go to plan. So with this one, we just want to say very clearly that yes, at some point, oh my God, some point soon, Garrosh will go back in the past, but the point at which he arrives, which is slightly before the events of Rise of the Horde.
You can stop now.
Oh, I lost my train of thought. See how complicated
Sorry.
it is? But at the point at which he arrives, it's all normal kind of continuity to that point. And the point at which he arrives, effectively, it's like it's its own game. Our world's fine. History's fine. The threat ultimately is it maybe makes like a quantum. I'm not going to go there. He told me to stop. I'll stop. Fine. You explain it.
If we do our job as the past is fine. We are focused on Draenor going
Right.
here, kicking some orc butt. But what really excited us about this place, as Alex was talking about, was sort of all these kind of unanswered questions. This is a place steeped in WoW lore that we've never really gotten to explore. I mean, you've never seen Draenor before the demons had their way with it, before it was shattered in Outland. So what was it like? What was this place like? What was Karabor like before it was the Black Temple? This, by the way, this will be the Alliance capital in this expansion. You get to see Karabor when it was its sort of gleaming, glorious past. What about Auchindoun? What did it look like? Well, probably something like that. What was it like when it was sort of this beautiful mausoleum to the dead?
Savage beauty.
Savage beauty. How about Shatrath? Did you know that Shatrath was a coastal city? Did you know that Draenor had oceans? Of course it did. This is Shatrath on the Zangar Sea. We're going to get to see Shatrath, the City of Light, as a glorious, the city that it was. Of course it's in trouble. This is Warcraft, so we're going to have to save it. But this place is really steeped in lore, and it really gave us a chance to explore it. What were the Arakoa like when they had wings? Just a spoiler, they were jerks. But so when we have this kind of savage backdrop, it gives us the opportunity to create these really, really over-the-top villains. And I think we started to talk about these guys, and I love, all their stories are amazing. We get to spend a lot of quality time with these guys. Look, sort of buried here in the middle on the left there, that's Kilrog Deadeye, right? These guys rip out their own eyeball to see their future, their own glorious death, and then they steamroll toward that death with everything they have. How do you fight someone like that? How do you fight that kind of savagery? Yeah, I said it. What are you gonna do?
Should be a drinking game.
Yeah.
Be plastered by now. BlizzCon's over. It's too much.
I guess the important question to ask is, what would happen if the baddest badasses in Warcraft history formed a basketball team? Dudes can dunk, is what I'm saying. Sorry, thank you. I'm glad that got a chuckle. I spent minutes photoshopping that. Now we kind of cheated. We snuck in right there in the middle, wearing the wolf cowl. That's Duratan. That's actually Thrall's father. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Ooh, you're gonna have to play the expansion. Now, having these big epic villains, is there anything else we want to cover before? I did my basketball joke. That's all we need. So, having villains this big and this bold means that we can have heroes rise up to the challenge. First of all, that's you guys. You guys got to face this kind of threat down. Someone just raised their fist. Yeah, he's talking to me. You guys are going to get to do that. It also gives us the opportunity to really kind of adventure with some heroic characters. And I'm very pleased to introduce you to Yril. Yril is one of the Draenei. This kind of situation, this kind of savagery, go ahead, have a drink, is going to force ordinary Draenei to step up and become extraordinary. And so we're going to get to follow Yril's journey. She's kind of a Joan of Arc kind of archetype for the Draenei. Is one of the kind of characters we get to follow, and you get to help on.
I mean, just to jump in on that, Dave, it's like we're aware that the past number of expansion sets, we set the Draenei up in Burning Crusade. It was potentially a really deep, really interesting kit. And by the end of that game, they had got help from the Alliance and Horde, and ultimately did whatever we did in Outland.
They hung out.
We beat Illidan, right? There's yeah. It was a little aimless in hindsight. Nothing personal. It's all Alex's fault.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the Draenei kit had a lot of potential, and the past number of expansion sets, we haven't done much with it. So part of this was being really excited to kind of dig in on the Draenei kit and show them. I think David said it earlier, kind of at the height of their civilization. You know, before they were rolled by the Horde, before they were annihilated, we get to see what they were like and what they thought and how they lived and were there factions within their own race. And being able to create a character like Yril has been super cool, right? Just not only to get, butt-kicking female character kind of to the fore of the Draenei, but just to have just a really rockin' new, mega level alliance champion, that isn't one of the, the same old race leaders. Like, that was something that was really fun for us.
Again, once we started talking about going back to Draenor, all these sort of ideas and plots started to spring into mind. We got really excited about it, which is a good sign. While we're talking about the Alliance, hey, let's talk about the Alliance. Much like Pandaria, Alliance and Horde, they're going to come in. This is going to change them. And so this is something we really get to explore. We talked about this earlier in the other panel. I mean, the Alliance at this point, it's superpower status. And in a lot of ways, this is Beyond the Dark Portal all over again. What I really like about this is the Alliance is going on the offensive. They are taking the battle to them. They're stepping through the portal and kicking some butt.
Speak it, Brother Dave.
Love it. So who's going to be one of the first people to step through? Well, do you guys remember Murad? Maybe not. Some of you do. Good. From the Burning Crusade cinematic. Maybe that's all you remember him from, because we really didn't do a lot with Murad.
Most of the dev team did not remember Murad, by the way. Although we have statues of him all
That's a
throughout the
fact,
office.
by the way.
So you want to talk about some unresolved issues. Murad saw it all go down. He saw his people just slaughtered. Everybody he knew practically from Draenor slaughtered. So he's got to face kind of the demons of his own past. He's going back through there. He's going to try and set things right. He's on the front lines of the Alliance going through. And then his own values, once he comes face to face with this, are going to get questioned and tested. We're going to really get to explore this character. Anything else about Murad? What do we want to say about Murad?
I mean, I think it's a theme though for us in terms of the warlords of Draenor as an expansion, right? I feel like it's not just the orcs that are the warlords. I think that there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of characters here, and I think Murad, we're going to find out as we go through his story, is also categorized as one of the warlords of Draenor, and maybe by the end of this thing, you will be too. We'll see.
How about this guy? Who wants to see him put some armor back on?
I do.
Yeah. Is it about time? Yeah. He's talk about some unresolved issues. He's got a hammer to pick with Garrosh, I think. Yeah.
Talk about unresolved issues. Yeah, Thrall's chomping at the bit. Yeah, we had talked about this before. We've seen it on the internet. Like, a lot of people have been speculating that who is the orc racial leader in the Horde now. And we haven't totally decided it yet, but if I was to be asked to vote, I would say I don't think the orc racial leader is Thrall at this point. I think it should be like Sarfang or someone like that. Because Brother Thrall here has some serious work to do to ultimately bring Garrosh to justice. Certainly to get a new outfit here. And ultimately just solve a bunch of problems with his hammer. Would please me.
The best solutions involve the hammer. Yeah.
Strong blunt instruments.
But Thrall's story really kind of dovetails into just the whole Horde story. The Horde, as we said earlier, has to come face to face with sort of its own past at a time when it's trying to reinvent itself after the disastrous reign of its last war chief, and it's trying to really figure out who it is. To go back to the roots and really figure that out is something that excites us about the Horde storyline here. All right, and we talked about this earlier, the Draenei. We haven't really we haven't been able to do a whole lot with them in the last couple expansions, and people are saying, what about the Draenei? This is really our opportunity to really look at their civilization, look at what made them cook, what made them tick. Even in Burning Crusade, we only saw them after they had already fled, after everything had already been destroyed. When we were exploring the Draenei civilization, it was pretty much wrecked already. This gives us a chance to see who they really were, what they were about, and
just to cut in on you, one of the promises we made, a pact that we made for this one, as we first started talking about the Draenei, was that we're not going to allow them to crash any spaceships this time.
What about a little spaceship? A little spaceship? No? Okay, all right. No crash Draenei spaceships.
No spaceships. It's very important.
We really get to explore the Draenei, and you know what I think is really interesting is we get to see them at that pivotal inflection point. I mean, this is their Pearl Harbor moment. We get to really see them at the key moment in their recent history. So that'll be pretty exciting. It also lets us build up the culture kit, like what their buildings look like. You know, how things really were at kind of the height of their civilization on Draenor. Last point. And this is more of a gameplay value, really, than necessarily a story value. But we're excited building this world. We're excited building Draenor. And something that we'll talk about tomorrow in the Raids, Quest, and More panel is that we really want you to get out there and explore this world. We've loaded it with all these kind of cool nooks and crannies and these little hidden caves. And we want to load those hidden caves up with treasures and events and spontaneous things happening around you while you're questing. A little more like the Timeless Isle. If you play the Timeless Isle on Pandaria, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of rare bosses. There's a lot of stuff that just happens that's bringing people together all the time. Let me give you an example of that. This is kind of not the greatest screenshot, but it illustrates a point. While you're in Frostfire, which is playable here at the convention, if we would ever stop talking, we'd let you play the game. It's playable here at the convention. While you're running around the world, you'll see the Iron Horde here. They got snowed in. This is their caravan. These dudes with shovels are trying to dig it out while their war chief is yelling at them. You can just sort of stumble on this while you're playing. In the back of that cart, there's a treasure chest. If you can kill these guys, if you can kill the cleft hoof that's pulling it, then you can loot the treasure chest. There's not a quest to go there and do that. It's just something you find in the world. It's just an example of the kind of things that'll be around the world. So we really want you to just dive into Draenor and just explore and find things and discover things as you play and just make it a more dynamic, living world. And that's something we'll talk about more tomorrow. So I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna bring it home. This screenshot to me says so much about Draenor, and I love it. And you might have seen it at the earlier panel. You might not have gotten the scale of it. Sort of near the neck of the giant there. That's a tower. This is huge. This is an entire city. The Thunderlord Orc clan, they're the way they work. They all get together and they hunt giants together, and they work with teamwork. They topple these enormous giants. So hundreds and hundreds of years ago, in their kind of mythic past, they killed this enormous giant, and then carved out a city in its dead husk, and this kind of became a Thunderlord city. So this really gives you a feel for Draenor and how savage it is. This is the kind of thing. This is the kind of place it is. It's a mythic place. It's an epic place where you can have these amazing, big, epic, huge adventures and really feel like the hero. And that's the value of this expansion that we're really getting across. That's why we're so excited about going to Draenor. All right, parting thoughts. What am I missing? What am I forgetting?
Parting thoughts.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Kozak.
Do you want to go right to the Q&A? We good? We get it? Did we nail it?
We have 35 minutes to get our heads kicked in with brutal questions.
Okay.
They're passing out red shirts somewhere over there.
I saw him the other night. He's ready to go. He's got one.
We're fine. It's fine.
This is for Minister Metzen. I've been enamored with this world you have created since listening to my father slay wretched pinkskins in the other room. And I would be honored if you would sign my Warcraft 2 manual.
Totally. Let's do that after the Q&A, though, dude. Come down here, and I'll take care of that.
Awesome.
Hey guys, My question's for Chris. A couple of BlizzCons ago, someone had asked you to talk a little bit about the internal conflict Prince Kael'thas was dealing with during the events of the Burning Crusade. And you got really excited, and you said someone at Blizzard had written up like a 70-page treatment, and you were really excited, but you couldn't talk about it now. Could we get an update on that?
Don't look at me.
Yeah, well, the update is he totally wrote it, and it exists. I can't give you an exact update, and we might have talked about this 2 weeks ago. Like, we're close to publishing it. I just can't remember in what. Because there's so much awesome stuff we're doing. I don't remember. Dave, you were supposed to be on top of that.
I'll get right on that.
It's like Rise of the Prince Kael'thas book.
I see the bus going by. Dave's under it.
Yeah, it's it's imminent.
Awesome.
Maybe.
Thanks.
Hey guys, total respect for everything you do and all the attention to detail in the story. It'd be easy to gloss over those, I think, and I'm glad you do it. But just with the way this is shaping up, the storyline, we've always moving things forward. Of course, we're going back in time now. So how will how will our future really shape up story-wise? How do you build anything meaningful off of something that didn't really happen? Well, I would really want to emphasize that I think that it all depends on how you look at it, in that we aren't going back in time and doing an adventure that takes place back in time. This is Draenor of 35 years ago, but it's now. It is a present and imminent threat. The Dark Portal will have turned red. Iron Horde will be spilling through the Dark Portal. That's today. That's now. Okay, so that's a very real threat to Azeroth. So even though these are the Orc clans as they were, it's very important to remember that this is happening now and this matters now.
It's a lot like you go to Northrend, you kick the Lich King's butt, you come back home. It's going to feel like that. You're going to go to Draenor, you're going to address this threat, you're going to save the world, you're going to come back heroes.
There will be repercussions from this expansion too, and I mean, obviously it's spoilery, we can't go into it, but as you unfold or uncover what's happening, you will see.
Right. All right. Thanks, guys.
The events of this one definitely culminate and ultimately launch the next one, whatever that is.
Hi guys. I have a question for you. If we're going, okay, you're talking about Draenor. We're supposed to be going back in time, but we're not going back in time, right?
Correct.
So Outland never happened?
Still out there.
Still out there. Okay. What about Ilaria and Terralion?
Still out there.
Are we gonna see them?
We decided this, right?
We did decide. Go ahead.
We did.
Yeah, go.
Spill it.
We did.
Yes or no?
It's a no, right? Yes, it's a totally no.
It's a no.
It wasn't a guess. We're not going to see them.
Yeah.
Listen.
bad
You ready? Ready for the magic word? Yet.
We have plans for them.
Yet. Okay.
But do you know who's coming through with us? Khadgar is going to come with us. He's going to be working with us.
Awesome.
A lot of people that you're going to be working with.
Yeah, baby! Hey. The lighting's like perfect. It's just.
It's like a spotlight.
Okay, my question is not so much about Warlords of Draenor, but one thing I've kind of wondered about, especially since Pandaria came out. The southernmost points of the Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor and Pandaria, are all either jungle or desert, which almost suggests we're at the equator. So does that mean there's a whole southern hemisphere of Azeroth left to explore in the future?
Or maybe the planet is just very steeply angled.
A lot of the climate of Pandaria is shaped by Azeroth's unique ocean currents, thanks to the Maelstrom.
Trade winds.
Creates some different
Trade
weather.
winds.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
One day.
No.
Let's just say. What did you say? Yes.
Ocean
And no.
currents?
We're gonna say yes and no at the same time. No, it's a very astute observation. It's crazy. Actually, we actually have argued about this in the studio. And it's, boy, we went back and forth. Because it does look like it's all temperate, you know, kind of down there. So I think it's totally possible that there's more stuff down there. If these guys would quit doing globes with art inside of, was it Ulduar? Well, you can't put globes with continents. It's going to look like that's all there is. And you go, no, it's going to look cool. It's going to look awesome. But don't do it. Don't do it because it doesn't look like there could be anything else. Was my argument.
It did look cool, though.
It did look cool.
Oh, on the bright side, there is a good way to work around that. The globe in Ulduar already isn't accurate, so you could just say it's obscured.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
What did the Titans know, anyway? What did they know, really?
But it's a good observation. Now, there is potentially, yes, more stuff a little, you know, south of the border.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Red Shirt Guy. And we're all right.
We made it. We made it.
Relatively
Dude, ask
unscathed.
away, baby. What have you got?
All right, so Tome of Divinity, found by Uther in the Dead Mines. He goes to recover it, but it specifically mentions paladins in it before there are paladins in Azeroth. So the question is, were there paladins in Azeroth, Titan-related, whatever, and where does the tome come from?
Dave?
I can't really say that one. I'd investigate the author of the book and see if his facts were correct at the time. Yeah, I don't know.
What was it from? Was it from?
It was in the Dead Mines, right?
Right.
The tome of.
Yeah, somehow the ogres get a handle on it. Lothar goes to recover it for Northshire Abbey, and
Was this in the War One manual?
yes, and it was a mission in the original Warcraft.
Oh, that's right. Well, I didn't work on the original Warcraft, so. We'll look it up, man. Like none of us have an answer.
Will
to
we
that.
see Paladin lore in this expansion then?
That's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No. The yes is not a yes. The yes is a right on. Yeah, no, we have not.
We will.
Actually, you know
totally
what?
do Paladin lore.
Why don't you just answer from now
Yes.
on? Because
Yes.
he knows. Actually, we have talked about, yes, there will be Paladin lore in this expansion. Yes.
Lots of it.
But not from Northshire Abbey.
I just want to preface this by saying that I had the Chris Metzen Twitter account for a long time before it was taken away.
What was it called?
Cool Chris Metzen now. That was I originally had access, but I got a terms of service violation and had that taken away.
That's right, baby. No,
So my actual question is Garrosh in this expansion was kind of a to me personally, it was a little bit of a letdown because some of his characterization as far as like the legacy of Grom wasn't really addressed. There was some things where like Grom had made a mistake where he had corrupted the entire race, and then we have a scene where Garrosh takes the heart of Yersaj, corrupts himself, goes down basically the same path and never acknowledges it. I was just wondering if you guys were going to address that in the next expansion.
Yeah, I think. Yes, we are going to.
Yes, times two.
And times two. And I feel like we may have pushed Garrosh a little too far in one direction. My fault. But I think we are going to, I don't want to say we're going to redeem him. We're not going to redeem him. But I think we will provide for a satisfying ending for you and him.
Well, thank you personally for a satisfying ending, I hope. It was just, there was like 2 mentions in the entire expansion, neither of which were from Garrosh about Grom. That's just what my question is about, so.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is whether his path had a lot of continuity with his daddy's path, for sure. And oh, hell, it ain't over yet. But what you're totally looking at there is that this dude has crazy daddy issues. right? This little boy growing up
exactly.
in Garadar.
I was just hoping that would be like some major.
I just
part
don't.
of the character.
Garrosh isn't. He's not going to talk
You'll
about
see
it.
that.
He's not going to talk to us about it, right? But like, yeah, he's got some serious issues. And ultimately, I mean, when you really look at this idea, he's working some stuff out. He's literally going back, like, yeah, it's foreground, you know.
Yeah.
I've said too much.
No, you haven't said too much, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of Garrosh explanation that's going to happen in this expansion. For the better, I think, though. So hopefully it'll shed some light on him.
Well, thank you for answering my question, and I'm just still a little bit upset about the Twitter incident, but I'll get over it.
How dare you make me look funny on Twitter?
Oh, the new dwarf model is here.
I actually have a question about the demons in this next expansion. Since you say the timeline is going to take place before the Rise of the Horde, how are demons connected with the expansion with Medan, still corrupted? Is he still contacting Gul'dan?
Yeah, you know, one thing I forgot to point out on the image, I mean, you'll notice that Gul'dan has green skin on the image. He drank the Kool-Aid, he's bought in, and in this sort of configuration of events, he's kind of the outcast. So that tension between Gul'dan and the orcs is something we really get to explore.
Right, it's definitely part of the core storyline. Actually, we should have called that out. Gul'dan at this point has already, kind of taken the power, and then he offers it ultimately, as it goes to Grom and the rest, and things go a very, very different way. So imagine, up to the point where they kind of don't drink. All of Gul'dan's plans, the rise of the Shadow Council, the beginnings of constructing the Dark Portal itself, a lot of that has already kind of begun to occur. It's just at the point where the literal corruption came for all of them, they stand up and say, no, we're going another way. So Gul'dan definitely plays a major role in the storyline. And he's not entirely pleased that his plans did not pan out.
Okay.
Nor is Kill Jaden.
Oh, that too. Thank you, gentlemen, for everything you've done.
That was a good question. That was a good one.
I think we can all agree that this expansion has too much wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. So, a simple question, Chris. Since you're the father of Thrall, are you going to voice the father of Thrall?
Honestly, I would say probably no. I will say no, because I don't know. It has been suggested to me that too many is too many. So I'm happy to do Thrall, and we'll find a real actor to do Durotan.
Thank you.
Yeah, gentlemen. Sorry. You showed a lot of really great warlords up there, and while this guy wasn't necessarily a warlord, where is the best friend of Durotan, Orgrim Doomhammer?
You'll see him. You'll have a
Gorgrond.
He's in there.
intimately.
Excellent.
No, not really.
It's just Orgrim's. He's not one of the chiefs. Obviously, oh boy, yeah. In this continuity, he's Blackhand second in command. So he's definitely involved. He's got a bitchin' storyline where you kind of engage with him and kind of feel him out. But yeah, he's definitely not one of the chiefs. So he didn't make the picture.
That's great. I look forward to seeing him.
Yeah, Durotan really feels betrayed by him, and we're going to explore that friendship and see what happens there. It's a big plot point. So thank you for asking the question. That was a good one.
Take it easy.
Right. Thanks for making the game. I want to ask, because we've got the time aspect in the expansion, does that mean we're going to have double ups on certain characters, like to vindicate Morans? Because...
Nope.
No.
Oh!
And it's because we're clever.
Awesome.
Again, we really want the emphasis to be on Draenor, and so we can decide what kind of story we want to tell, and we're not really telling the time travel story. We're not really telling the paradox story. We're telling a story about going to this world and kicking butt.
Hi. So we did a lot of going over all the leaders for the various factions, like Lothamar, why he's still with the Horde, or Tyrande and so on. What did the Pandaren leaders actually add to their factions? Like, why is G still in Orgrimmar when we're sieging it, and so on?
Yeah, it's always a question of space. You know, we only have so much gameplay to explore the different stories of the different faction leaders, and I kind of regret that we didn't get to do more with G and Asa. We sort of hinted that things went pretty bad between G and the Horde, and you know, ultimately we got him out of there. Sorry, spoiler if you haven't gotten to that fight yet. Yeah, we really didn't get a chance to really drill more into their story, their relationship with the Horde. And now that there's a kind of a new Horde under Vol'jin, G can sort of step in and be the Pandaren representative for the Horde. And so, yeah, we didn't really have a lot of space to tell that story, which is a shame, but it's a good question.
Hi, my question's about Gul'dan's posse, Cho'Gall, Terra and Gorfin. Are they with the Iron Horde, or are they still with Gul'dan?
They're with Gul'dan.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's good of you to bring that up. It's actually going to be a pretty big part of the Gul'dan story, as we'll get into Gorfin, we'll get into Cho'Gall, we'll get into...
Yeah. Is he still alive in the old universe?
He's actually known as Terran Gore.
Oh, sorry.
He's not Gorfin yet, but we'll potentially see that.
All right, thank you.
That's a good question. This guy knew his stuff. He's
did,
ready.
yeah, I
He's
like
ready
that.
to go.
Hi there. So my question was about how you said there are two timelines. Like Garrosh brings the Draenor from the past to the present. So the characters that like Garrosh and Thrall are related to, Grom and Thrall, are they going to learn something about their history or their past? Because it is a separate, you know, now that they brought it and you said it's got nothing to do with our world's history, you know, Garrosh didn't know his father, Thrall didn't really know his father that much in that, you know, that way. So how are they going to be impacted by seeing their family members that they never knew?
So that's a really good question, and that is one of my favorite things about choosing to go in this direction is, yeah, Thrall didn't know his parents at all. He was an infant when he was kind of left, you know, or found, more to the point, by, was it Blackmore? Garrosh the same way, didn't really know his dad or whatever, and look at that, you know, look at that continuity. Like, this is just core throughout this whole thing. And even though the instances may be different, obviously both of these orcs are going back as grown men and engaging, you know, their parents really, almost like at this, as when they were young, you know, or in their prime. What a fascinating experiment, right? And it's all about that. Like, obviously these situations would never have naturally occurred, but there's so much for these guys to learn about their folks and about where they come from. Right? Even in those situations are totally different than anything that might have happened. The core of those people is still the same. You know, Durotan, Draka, you know, even Gromosh, right? Like, they're going to react true to character, you know. And I think these two orcs, you know, Garrosh and Thrall, are going to come away hugely affected by what they find. Maybe it may not match what they always thought. If I'm Thrall and I'm going back in time, is Durotan a really noble dude? Or was he noble because the situation demanded that he be noble? Because he didn't want his clan to get, you know, fell corrupted. So these are all the really interesting questions we ask as we dig into this lore, as we dig into the possible storylines. And I think for me, that's the root of it, right? Is the opportunity to really dig in there and change these guys and how they look at things. I'll be honest with you, from the Thrall storyline, you know, we attempted to do something during Cataclysm, which was, my friends will tell me, it was a little touchy-feely, and maybe it didn't work very well from MMORPG, right? Maybe the game doesn't have enough subtlety for where we tried to go with Thrall, you know, like an internal cataclysm. He's really losing his identity. He's really got a grip to figure out what he's about, and look at all the calamity that ensued. But I'll tell you what, Thrall going back to Frostfire and meeting his dad and meeting his family, and spoilers, his uncles, right, and a much larger tapestry of Frostwolves, and just seeing how badass they were, this is what he needs. This is the vacation Brother Thrall needed to pull it together and remember who he is.
People, right? Thrall's
What?
Durotan and Grom, they're pretty much the same people.
Yeah, their character's pretty much the same. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to be challenged. Everyone will be changed a little bit by these events. But yeah, we're going off the presumption that it's really the core of the character, even though the situations may be a little different.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi guys, my question has to do with the wibbly wobbly timey wimey, as someone mentioned earlier. You said that this isn't going to affect our current timeline, but is there a chance of exploring alternate realities based on what we change in this expansion?
Yes.
All right,
We
sounds
probably
great.
will do something like that. And it does, it affects our current timeline, but as Tom was saying, in the present, right? So these Iron Horde guys, they're going to come through, they're going to stomp on people in our Azeroth. We need to stop that from happening. But it definitely does give us that opportunity.
Yeah, I think the clarification there is that this does affect our current timeline. What it does not affect is past history, right? History is not undone for our timeline. But certainly, there are Iron Horde orcs coming through this portal.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. My question is regarding Zayla and the Dragon Maw. Will we see the Dragon Maw clan and Zul'Hed the Whack in this expansion? Does Zayla live from the Siege of Orgrimmar? Is she pregnant with Garrosh's kid? What's up with the Dragon Maw?
So Zayla definitely survived the siege, and obviously she's cast her lot in with Garrosh. And then there's a question: Does she go through with him? And I don't remember if we've decided that yet.
She does. Yeah.
She does.
I think we said at
Yeah.
some point she does go back.
Yeah, she's there with Garrosh back in Draenor. So we're gonna find Zayla again.
All right, and we'll see the past Dragon Maw clan with Zul'Hed the Whack.
Honestly, we haven't talked all that much about the Dragon Maw so far, but I would say that is a possibility. There's a lot of like kind of second tier orc clans that all have pretty cool kits, but we haven't been exhaustive yet.
Yeah, more importantly, there's no native dragons on Draenor, so that whole clan identity wouldn't have existed until later on.
In effect, what Dave's saying is that he wishes I hadn't made him up anyway back in Warcraft 2, and sometimes I wish I hadn't either. So we don't know exactly what we're going to do with them.
Okay.
Hi guys. To dovetail on the question about Zayla going through, I want to get into the feminine side of the orcs. Obviously, you've mentioned we're probably going to see Draka, Thrall's mom.
Absolutely.
Are we going to see Gaia, Thrall's grandma? Is she going to be around still?
She's alive. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I think she's mother instead of great mother at this point.
Yeah, at that
right?
point.
She's not so great. Yeah.
And since Zayla's possibly going to be going through with Garrosh, is Agra going to be going through with Thrall and Thrall's little one?
No.
No, yeah, that honeymoon is over.
Yeah, we talked about that.
It's more of a boys' trip
Gotcha.
for Thrall.
There you go. And then the last question I've got about that is, what about Garona? Are we going to see her?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
My question's basically around the age of Grom Hellscream, how he seems to stop aging at some point. The book Rise of the Horde, he seems to be shoulder to shoulder with Durotan, like in that Rogues Gallery pick, which is awesome, by the way. But in Warcraft 3, he's shoulder to shoulder with Thrall, not looking any older. So he looks kind of spry for an
He's
older guy.
definitely older, at least 20 years older than Thrall on Warcraft 3. He's just got good genes, right? So there's not a lot of gray in the hair, like some people. But yeah, no, he was clearly twice as old. All right, maybe clearly isn't all that clear, but in my opinion, and I wrote it, he's definitely, he could be Thrall's dad.
Okay.
And that was the nature of.
Do you want to talk about?
Stop there.
Do you want to talk about Gromash back? I mean, he's definitely a young guy back on Draenor. Do you want to talk about his history, like his whole thing? Dude's like a rock star back on Draenor. I mean, he's in charge of the Wolf Riders. He's kind of the head of this Mongol cavalry that can just strike viciously at the ogres and then run away. I mean, he's living large. He's partying. He's he's a serious guy. Is kind of Gromash's background.
And then things go terribly wrong.
Thanks.
As
Oh,
they do.
and Rexar origin story, please.
All right, guys. My first question is: you said that the timeline is before Rise of the Horde, but Durotan's dad dies during the book. So,
well, Rise of the Horde encompasses a big chunk of the timeline. So
so let's be clear.
Yeah.
What we mean by that is before these guys march through the dark portal and invade Azeroth. That's what that means. Before the critical events of Rise of the Horde really begin to move.
Yeah, Garrosh goes back 2 years or so, maybe 2 or 3 years before they drink the blood of Manroth. So he goes back, starts manipulating things, and then things will change from there.
okay. And my other thing is the Burning Legion gonna show up?
Yeah, well, Gul'dan's still on the telephone with him, so.
Don't worry, I'm going to take care of it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Kill the hell screams.
I got it.
Calling the wolf.
The wolf?
Thank you. Good question.
Yeah, I had a question about Sylvanas. She's clearly still resurrecting dead bodies, taking more land. Varian at the end of 5.4 says we have to get Gilneas back, but no one else seems to notice. And if we're going to be going to Draenor, are we going to be taking care of her? Is she going to become more of a spotlighted character? What's going on with her?
Yes. No, I mean, we love Sylvanas, and I think we like to leave her kind of crafting and doing wicked, terrible things in the background. So one day, she may, do something terrible, and we'll have to deal with it. But for now, she's okay.
There will be a day when she's featured huge. That's
Yeah.
an awesome character that we all really like, and there's going to be a time where she'll be in the spotlight.
There'll be some sort of reckoning.
Yeah.
The last thing she wants to do is go to a planet full of a bunch of orcs. She
Yeah.
does not care.
Not interested.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. So
It's Rathion.
It is.
What's up?
Hi.
Will you be distributing loot after the panel?
No. I can send you on quests if you want, but no loot. So my question was actually about the Blood Elves and if they're going to play a role at all in this expansion. It might be kind of interesting to see like them going back to a planet that they kind of killed before they killed it, and there's be a lot of feelings there for like the Magisters and Kael'thas sympathizers.
I would say to answer that question or to address that question, it came up a little earlier. Should we drop it like it's hot or tease? When the Paladin question got asked earlier, there may be a correlation with Blood Elf Paladins, a deeper understanding of where Paladins come from, how the light works, what Auchindoun is, and what the Draenei have really been up to on Draenor. How interesting that it's Blood Elves coming back around to kind of learn pretty big lessons about what it means to be a Paladin. After all the events of the Sunwell and the kind of redemption of Moru, I think that was the name of the oh Lord.
Muru.
Naru.
Oh, Naru.
I knew
Yeah,
it.
the
I knew
name
that.
was it.
But yeah, that whole. Yes, that's a theme that we're very interested in looking at.
On that note, are you going to pull Silver Moon out of 2007 anytime soon?
No.
Rocking 2007 like it's 1996 or something. Judgmental.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As an orc shaman, we'll go into Draenor with the shamanism that was developed on Azeroth. Since we're dealing with the race of shamans who were not locked up into Azeroth, what kind of mega powerful shamanism that developed over 35 years on Draenor are we going to be seeing, and will it change our method of shamanism as well?
You're going to see awesome stuff. You're going to see Drekthar. You're going to see that actually embodied in Drekthar. You're going to see him go blind from just messing with the elements, so to speak. But they're actually huge shamanistic elemental lines that we're going to play with in this expansion. There's going to be a lot that we tell, I think. Yeah.
One thing we get to play with is the different orc clans kind of have some different ideas of shamanism. So there's some different flavors out there, and so you can kind of see how they're all sort of treating it a little differently than what we would think of as a modern shaman. So that'll be fun.
It's like we're trying to deal with shamanism kind of in a different way. Obviously, the class is the class, and your abilities are your abilities, but we're trying to paint these cultures in a way that's kind of maximum different from Azeroth, but not broken. You know, so like the guys said, we're trying to paint shamanism in a kind of a different way. It's still innately elemental, but we want to kind of mythologize it too. You know, like Drekthar going off and speaking to the west wind. You know, as opposed to it's always like these elemental creatures. We want to kind of mythologize it a bit more and kind of have a little more reverence for it, for shamanism as the core, you know, system of this world. You know, try to play with it a little bit.
If would alter how we cast our spells and how they look like it. Well, Warlock's got the Green Fire quest line.
We have about 4 minutes left, so maybe 1 or 2 questions more.
First off, thank you for the 9 years of awesomeness. So
Is that
thank
the
you very
craziest
much.
thing?
My question is this: in light of the Alliance high point, if you will, what can you expound upon the Horde addressing their issues and difficulties of rebuilding a little bit?
I think it's a really good question. It's a little hard to answer. There are no direct anything. It's just like the adventure's coming and we're planning to do a lot with the Horde. I don't know how to answer it overarchingly, but I think what we've seen recently is a battle between ideologies. The Iron Horde, even though it's not felled out in green, is every bit as ruthless and dangerous and hateful as the original Horde from the first few games. Towards the modern times, Thrall built a very different kind of Horde, right? Where there is equality, where there is no, there's no, evident kind of racism. Everybody gets to come in. It's almost this coalition for mutual survival, all these cast out races, right? They didn't have any fast friends, and they didn't have anywhere to go. So the Horde just kind of took them all in. And Thrall kind of held it all together because that's just the way he sees the world. And so I think the ideological conflict was with Garrosh. To Garrosh, who grew up in Garadar, like with stories of his dad and Kargath and Kilrog and all these rock stars, it's like the Horde is not about trolls and are you kidding me with these elves? It's about orcs. It's about the orcish ideal. And Garrosh could never resolve that. I think when he met Thrall in Nagron, all those years ago, and I love that quest line. I think he was just like, yeah, take me with you. Totally, you're such an epic orc. But the more he saw when he got to Azeroth, the campaign in the far north, like everything he had been through, I think it just deepened this confusion in him. They're like, this can't possibly be right. Democracy? Really? So I think at this time, under Vol'jin, and especially throughout the events of this next expansion set, I think the Horde's thinking a lot about what are we about? Who are we? As a troll, as a war chief for the first time. I love that. Almost love the idea. It'd be very difficult in gameplay or whatever. It'd just be too gnarly to do. But I love the idea. Like every couple years, like someone else gets a shot. Imagine a blood elf as war chief. I love that. It's just so weird, right? But I think the Horde is in that transition state where they're trying to figure it out again. Was Thrall's way right? Do we need to adjust it? Should we triple down on it? And we're kind of in the space of exploring every part of that. And I think it's a good turn for the Horde. I think there's, like we said in the intro today, I think it's this total opportunity to kind of rebirth what it's always about. It's always going to be a little Wolverine, right? It's all, Horde's always going to be tough and badass and just kind of that chaotic, neutral, scrapper kind of thing. But I think it's in this place of kind of spiritual transformation, and I think that could be very powerful in the lore in years to come.
Thank you very much. I've seen my little timer here starting to blink, so I think we're out of time for questions. But everybody, thank you so much for coming to the panel. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
We'll be
Thanks,
around
guys.
Ask us
Thank you.
questions. We'll be around. Thank you very much. Thank you, BlizzCon.
The World of Warcraft, The Adventure Continues panel. Up next, the Art of World of Warcraft panel.
Okay, there we go. My clickers are right there. Excellent.
Mike?
Thank you.
Giving you hugs. It's my daughter.
Yeah, I got the
Go get your stuff.
Mute your mics. You got the mics on now. Where are we at now? We're at the Warcraft. Gary,
Yes.
All right, buddy. Yes.
Standing for this in front of the podium.
And Chris?
Okay. And you need one more chair up there.
Sure.
5 people sitting and one standing in front of that.
Okay.
Just one chair. He was going to stand out.
I'm going to be off to the right.
Due to unforeseen